Hello, and thank you for accessing and joining this recorded webinar. My name is Daria Girani. I am the program manager for the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. I'm here today with Patricia Coates, the director of the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships and Office of Engagement at UVM, and Michelle Perotti, manager of outreach operations here at the Leahy Institute. Thank you both for joining. In this recorded presentation, I will go over the basic information relevant to our 2025 grant program cycle, share the kind of main things you need to know about applying and what we're looking to fund at the Leahy Institute. And then I will offer some questions that we get all the time from applicants, which my colleagues here will share with me, and we will go over those. I just wanted to mention that we have a full request for proposals document that is on our website. This proposal will have a link to that website at the end, but just for your knowledge, our website is uvm.edu/ruralpartnerships/grants, and you can find more detailed information on that page. Okay, let's get started. The first piece of information I'd like to share is that we have increased the ceiling for our capacity grant tier from $10,000 to $20,000. This capacity grant tier is kind of the entry track for organizations or UVM faculty or staff wishing to engage in community at university partnership work, but they may need time, resources to build those partnerships and build those relationships. I'll get into this a little bit more in the presentation, but I wanted to just start letting you know that we have raised that ceiling for the capacity grant tier. Okay, and this is just our brief agenda for this presentation, including a beautiful barn. We have a lot of barn imagery here at the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So to begin, I'll provide a brief background on the Leahy Institute and how this all came to be, go over fund eligibility and funding priorities, how any application would be evaluated by Leahy Institute staff and the advisory board, the award amounts that we offer, the timeline for the 2025 application cycle, how to access your application, and finally, some frequently asked questions. So who are we at the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships? We at the Leahy Institute operate alongside the Office of Engagement. We have the same staff, with the mission to provide engagement opportunities and partnerships with the University of Vermont for the benefit of our rural places. And we envision a Vermont where all communities can thrive. Our activities are kind of organized into three prongs. We want to advance UVM's engagement in Vermont to fulfill our land grant mission. We want to facilitate high quality partnerships and make investments into those partnerships to then make an impact on Vermont's rural communities, which by definition is all of Vermont. So how we got here, how we got our funding was through a $14 million award from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA as we refer, with leadership and support from retired U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy. Research collaboration also takes place with our fellow consortium members, NIFA awardees, Auburn University in Alabama and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who each have their own Institute for Rural Partnerships that have slightly different focus than we do here at UVM. Okay, so our Institute for Rural Partnerships has the following focus areas. They are intentionally broad to allow for kind of cross-focus area projects and projects that may not exactly fit into one of these buckets, but we just want to provide this as general guidance. So those priority focus areas are regenerative agriculture, community schools, transit and housing solutions, remote and co-working places, resilient energy systems, healthy ecosystems, access to healthcare in rural areas, and policy and governance. All of these issues have been highlighted as significant needs for rural communities, and we come in to help invest in projects that impact these areas. So how are we funding and what is available? So we have two tiers, the capacity grant tier and the partnership grant tier. The capacity grant tier is kind of our entry track, as I mentioned before, for community partners and even UVM partners who want to engage with the community. So if you have a strong idea of rural impact and an idea of who you may want to partner with, either in the community or at UVM, but you haven't made that partnership yet and have that strong case, we would love to hear that case. Any project like that would be an ideal candidate for a capacity grant, which both capacity grants and partnership grants have a year of a period of performance. So if you received a capacity grant, you would receive $20,000 to develop that partnership and that project. You can see the little arrow at the bottom here. The capacity grant is intended to create larger partnerships and projects that can and will be eligible to receive a partnership grant. So a partnership grant has that established partnership between a community partner and a UVM unit, department, faculty member, and you can receive up to $250,000 to accomplish your goals for the project. Any project that or group partnership that goes for a partnership application will be asked to share clearly defined goals and metrics of success, which we then ask to report on throughout the grant program if funded. And yeah, this is kind of the banner intent of our grant is to catalyze these partnerships and set them up for success so that they can go on into the future after the grant is over. I just wanted to highlight here that the University of Vermont partner can be a faculty member, can be a department, can be an institute, or can include student groups, so like an internship cohort or a service learning class. So if you are looking to apply for a Leahy grant, how will your application be evaluated? We have 5 evaluation criteria that our staff, our advisory board, anybody looking at the application has these 5 pillars as kind of their guideposts in evaluating a successful application. So first, you must engage in a partnership with the University of Vermont and its students, faculty, and resources. Capacity grants don't need to have this exactly in place, but of course, that's part of the goal. The project must align with one of the Institute's priority focus areas that I mentioned 2 slides ago. The project must show a deep understanding of Vermont and what is challenging the rural communities. So basically, what is challenging communities in Vermont throughout the state. That can have a regional focus, it can have a statewide focus, or it can have a specific focus in a county or a town. The project must consider the perspectives of underserved rural communities in project design and the outcomes and evaluation. If your project targets an underserved rural community, we want to hear what you've done to reach that community, bring them in, and hear the needs of that community. And finally, because this is only a short period of performance, the project design must demonstrate feasibility and scalability, including sustainability after the year-long period of performance in the project design. We want to make sure that partnerships have a robust framework that can continue financially, or kind of those relationships will continue after we have kind of ducked out and closed the grant. Okay, so here are some important dates for our cycle 3 application timeline. So applications opened on June 17th, 2025. We publicized this at our RISE conference, and we have the whole summer to create a short letter of intent. We intentionally design the letter of intent that it doesn't create significant burden on an applicant. So that letter of intent is due on September 1st. It's a Monday of 2025. Your letter of intent will be reviewed during the time between September 1st and September 28th, when we plan to invite those LOIs that have a significant interest to the Leahy Institute and a chance of receiving funding to submit a full proposal. And that invitation to submit a proposal will go out at the end of September, and you will have over a month to create a full funding proposal with a full detailed budget, goals, and metrics for success that would be due November 7th, 2025. And then you would receive that award notification before winter break sometime. We have a lot of review to do. We make sure to be diligent in reviewing all of the proposals, both from a programming perspective, but also from a funding logistics perspective. And then the period of performance for this cycle would start January 1st, 2026, and go through December 31st, 2026. Here's some important information about how to access our application. UVM uses the InfoReady platform for grant submissions. We have a branded site on InfoReady, so it will be pretty obvious that you're at the right place. That website is submit.uvm.edu. Community applicants, so those without a uvm.edu email address, will create a user ID and password in InfoReady, and UVM applicants will sign in with your single sign-on. A note specifically to those UVM-led applicants, so if an application is being submitted or the project is being led by a UVM faculty member, staff member, please work with your department chair, business manager, your kind of research development person, or your SPA 2.0 representative, whoever you have in your department who helps with those financial administrative pieces. Please work with that person to process your application through UVM Click in addition to your InfoReady submission. So the UVM Click, for those of you who apply to grants regularly, you know this, but UVM Click is our internal application system that just lets all the relevant parties know that a grant application is being submitted and that funding may be awarded. It's kind of that planning platform for us. You will submit your short letter of intent by following the provided form. It is fairly short, really only asks for kind of who's applying, how much are you projecting that you will be applying for, the short project description, and we only ask for kind of estimated, not even numbers, we just ask for the primary expense categories that you will be requesting funding for. So you don't need to have a budget pinned down to submit a letter of intent. You don't need to have those letters of support that are required in the proposal form to show the partnership or the partnership potential. And you also don't need to have a budget justification to submit a letter of intent. And again, proposal invitations will be sent September 28th, 2025. If your LOI has moved forward, you will receive a link to the proposal, and then you can just go right from there. Your LOI materials would be populated into a proposal form, so you wouldn't have to start from scratch if invited to fill out a full proposal. So that is kind of the overview of what we are offering, what we're looking to fund, and how to access an application to submit. At this time, I would like to go over a few of the top most frequently asked questions by applicants. And for that, I would like to turn it over to Trisha to ask.
Sure. Thanks, Daria. That was a great presentation. Can you explain, how do I know how much funding to request for my project? I know this question comes up frequently among our partners.
Great question. Thanks, Trisha, for asking that. So the best practice for requesting funding is to request the amount that will promote the greatest impact, knowing how your organization or your department, what the resources are that are available, while also considering your current capacity. So any projects you're currently working on, do you have the time or effort, monetarily or otherwise, to give to this project? Project sustainability past the partnership grant lifespan of 1 year is a major component of proposal evaluation. So it's very important to consider what the needs of the project are, but not promise too much in terms of grant administration or project, like the project execution, that the sustainability would come into question. So if your organization or your department doesn't regularly handle very large grants or kind of large complex projects, you may want to think about that since you only have the 1 year to execute. So that's kind of my answer. And I hope that that is helpful in giving guidance as to how much money to request for your project.
Thanks for Daria. Well, I have another question that we often receive here at the Leahy Institute, which are, since these funds are federal, what project costs are eligible and which are ineligible?
Thanks, Michelle. This is, I would say, even though it's listed at number 2, this is the number 1 question we get. Because we are funded through the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, we have to obey kind of Office of Management and Budget guidelines through giving federal funds. So some examples of eligible costs would include salaries or time for project personnel, like project leads, or anyone who is donating, or not donating, but giving their time to this project. Also, consultants or any other involved parties that would involve a contract or a service agreement, that is also covered. Publications for results of any projects, domestic travel. Partnership development often involves a lot of travel. We at the Leahy Institute are very big on convening in person, and we want to support your efforts to convene in person with partners or potential partners if you receive a capacity grant. Memberships to technical or professional organizations can be purchased for the time of the grant. Also, this is kind of falls under the salaries and kind of time category, but stipends for students and trainees receiving technical information through the grant. Stipends have a specific definition that includes paying for living expenses and wages. So just to note, and equipment less than $5,000, for example, computers, technology needed for research projects. And of course, if you have questions about, is this piece of equipment eligible, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contact information at the end of this presentation, and I can get you that exact information. We work very closely with UVM's sponsored project administration, kind of holds all of that knowledge, and I can work with them to get that exact answer for you. Some ineligible costs include fixed equipment. So that is like, I mean, this is kind of in the same category, but building renovations. So things that are high, have a high cost, maybe don't have like specific relevance to the specific project. But yeah, building, anything kind of like permanent is ineligible. And again, this is like a broad category that does have exceptions. So please make sure to ask if you have any kind of concern with a project cost. Entertainment costs, including food. Actually, food, while we say convenings are very important, food has a lot of restrictions federally. So if you plan to host convenings and want to feed the people who attend, I have some additional information that I can share with you as to how food can be eligible. So it's not classified as entertainment. Lobbying or membership to lobbying organizations, cash incentives, or promotional items. So giveaway items, t-shirts, bags, pens, pencils are not eligible. I also want to share a note on indirect costs. The Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships, the grant that funds us, has a really specific limit on indirect costs. We only have a 1% indirect cost rate. So just consider that in your project budget design and your budget justification. Again, for questions on any eligible or ineligible costs, please reach out to me for that information.
Thank you. That's really helpful, Daria. Appreciate it. We often get questions, especially from community partners, about how students can be involved in these projects.
That's a great question. UVM resources are kind of what we want to share out of this grant program. We focus on fulfilling the land grant mission that UVM has as a land grant institution, and students, in addition to faculty expertise and financial support, are a significant resource that UVM has to share with community organizations in Vermont. So we prioritize the cultivation of reciprocal relationships among students and communities in service to Vermont's economy. Community partners can engage with students through participation in service learning courses, which are academic credit-bearing courses that have a service component in order to complete the course, and those are led by UVM faculty. We can help you create internship positions and have support with creating a job description. We also offer micro internships, which are short, one or a couple task length projects, semester length and summer internships, year-long co-ops, and participation in the Leahy Institute's kind of branded summer internship cohort. And for more information on student engagement at UVM, you can contact the Career Center at UVM, specifically Kristen Andrews. And her contact information is on our website where these questions live and in our request for proposals. Also, I wanted to highlight, if you want to strengthen your application that involves students in any way, in any of the ways I just listed above, it would be very ideal to include a student engagement attachment. It's optional for the LOI, but very important if you are invited to a full proposal. Some of those like examples of student engagement attachments would be a internship job description, a service learning scope of work and an identified faculty instructor, a micro internship job description, or a research scope of work with a faculty sponsor and evidence of IRB initiation. And again, you can reach out to UVM's Career Center, and we have Kristen Andrews' contact on our website and in the RFP.
Thank you, Daria. Do enjoy having our students out across all of these project areas. So thanks for that additional information. The last question that we often receive are around the reporting requirements. This is a federal grant, and we do have a consortium that we speak to. So how and what are those requirements?
Great question. Thanks, Michelle. So anyone who receives funding, after you receive the notification that you've been awarded a Leahy grant, we will reach out to you to confirm your project goals and outcomes. And we know that when time passes, you submit, we try to keep everything pretty quick, so you're not waiting months and months from proposal submission to award notification. But we understand that things happen and you make estimations on your project that may change during the application period time. So we will reach out to you to confirm your goals and outcomes that you would like to speak to in the reports that we ask you to fill out. So really, both reports, which we have a 6-month report that is due in July, and a 12-month report that is due the month after that your grant ends. So the grants end December 31st, and your final report will be due at the end of the next month, which is January. So for this cycle, it would be due in January 2027. We ask you to report on the success and your learnings of your goals and outcomes, because you, as the project or potential project team, know your project the best. And we want to defer to you in determining those goals. So the report really asks mainly, how did you do? How do you feel about what you've accomplished? What did you learn? What was unexpected that came up? And how did you address those unexpected changes? And how students helped and kind of the effectiveness of UVM students in project outcomes. We also ask for any kind of media that you may have or want to share. So photos, videos, links to articles, that's something that we are very interested in communicating out to the public. So we ask for that as well. Also, in addition to that 6-month report and the final report, I want to share that we do offer, after the kind of grant cycle is over, we host a pitch event at the Leahy Institute building where we ask, it's optional, but it is a really fantastic event where we invite leaders from across Vermont, community leaders, funders, UVM, other UVM faculty members, and you can present on the results of your project and use that time to share your impact and also get in front of people who may be able to continue to support your project. Because when you're a Leahy Institute awardee, not only do you receive funding support from us, but we really want to see your partnership live on. And this pitch event is kind of one of those ways. So you have a 6-month report, a final report, and then an optional kind of presentation at our pitch event. So I think that's all the questions that we're going to be covering in this presentation. I'm just going to mouse over to our contact us slide here. Thank you so much for watching and listening through this webinar. Again, this is a recording. You didn't miss any event or anything like that. Please reach out to me. My name is Daria Durrani. I am the program manager, again, for the Leahy Institute. My email is ddurrani@uvm.edu. And please visit our website, which I have linked here, that has our kind of relevant documents or requests for proposals, which have even more questions and information about a grant application, including an evaluation rubric that I went over those 5 evaluation criteria, but we have kind of like sub questions if you have further questions about what our reviewers will be looking for. And again, thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to hearing from you. I am happy to answer any questions you have about the application requirements or the portal if you have issues with that. So again, thank you very much. And thanks to Trisha and Michelle for joining me today.
Happy to. Thank you, Daria.
Thanks, Daria. Good luck, everyone.